The village of Kachi rested quietly between wide wheat fields and a slow, winding river, a place so small that everyone knew everyone else's name, and nothing ever truly disappeared, except, one afternoon, a little girl named Meher. She was 6 years old, thin as a reed, with dusty feet and hair that never stayed tied no matter how tightly her mother braided it, and she was known in the village for two things: her soft voice and her habit of wandering just a little too far. That afternoon began like any other, with the sun warm but gentle, women washing clothes near the well, men resting beneath neem trees, and children chasing one another through narrow lanes while laughter echoed off mud brick walls. Meher sat on the threshold of her home, tracing shapes in the dirt with a stick, waiting for her mother to finish cooking, unaware that this ordinary moment would be the last time anyone saw her where she belonged. Her mother, Syra, called out from inside the house, reminding Meher not to stray, her voice firm but loving, the same warning she gave every day, and Meher nodded obediently even though curiosity tugged at her like a quiet pull. Across the lane, a goat wandered freely, its bell chiming softly, and beyond it lay the path that led toward the fields, shimmering with heat and promise. Meher stood, brushing dust from her dress, telling herself she would only walk a little way, just enough to see where the path bent before turning back. She had done this before and always returned, and the village had always been there waiting for her, safe and familiar. As she walked, the sounds of Kachi slowly softened, the clang of metal pots, the murmur of voices, the laughter of children, until only the rustle of wind through wheat stalks remained. Meher didn't notice when she crossed the point where the paths grew confusing, where one trail split into two and then three, each looking almost the same. She followed a small bird hopping along the ground, smiling as it darted away, until suddenly the bird vanished and Meher stopped, realizing the world around her felt larger and quieter than before. She turned, expecting to see the rooftops of the village, but saw only tall grass swaying gently, hiding everything she knew. Back in Kachi, Syra stepped outside with a bowl of food, calling Meher's name casually at first, certain her daughter was nearby, but when no small feet came running and no familiar voice answered, her chest tightened. She called again, louder this time, scanning the lane, then the neighbor's courtyard, then the well, her worry growing with each unanswered call. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Syra's voice was shaking, and the village, once calm, began to stir with unease as word spread quietly from house to house. Meher was missing. Out in the fields, Meher stood very still, her stick fallen from her hand, the first tear sliding down her cheek as she whispered for her mother, not yet knowing how far her small steps had carried her from home, or how long the night ahead would be. The moment Syra understood that Meher was truly missing, fear spread through her body like cold water poured down her spine. She moved faster now, no longer calling casually but shouting her daughter's name with a desperation that turned heads and silenced conversations. Neighbors stepped out of their homes, wiping their hands on their clothes, reading the panic on Syra's face before she even spoke. Someone said they had seen Meher sitting near the doorstep earlier. Another thought she might be playing near the well. A third suggested she could be with the other children near the banyan tree. Each suggestion brought a flicker of hope, and each one died quickly when Meher was not found there. As the sun lowered, casting long orange shadows across Kachi, the village began to change. The laughter faded. Doors remained open. People stopped what they were doing and joined the search, calling Meher's name into courtyards, lanes, and fields. Old men leaned on their sticks, scanning the paths with worried eyes. Women held lanterns that flickered in the rising wind. Children were pulled close to their parents, suddenly aware that the village, which had always felt safe, could lose someone so small. Syra walked as if in a dream, her heart pounding painfully as she replayed the afternoon again and again in her mind. She remembered warning Meher not to wander. She remembered the nod, the promise. Guilt weighed heavily on her chest, pressing harder with every passing minute. She blamed herself for turning her back, for assuming the village would protect her child the way it always had. Now, the village itself seemed to be holding its breath. Meher's father, Irfan, returned from the fields just as the news reached him. One look at Syra's face told him everything. He dropped the tools from his hands and immediately joined the search, his voice strong but trembling as he called Meher's name again and again. He walked the paths that led away from the village, examining the dirt carefully, searching for small footprints, broken grass, anything that might tell him where his daughter had gone. The land, however, offered no easy answers. Beyond the village, Meher was learning what it meant to be truly alone. The daylight that had once felt warm now faded quickly, and with it went her sense of direction. Every time she thought she recognized a path, it curved away into something unfamiliar. She tried to retrace her steps, but the tall grass looked the same from every angle. Her legs ached from walking, and fear made her chest feel tight and heavy. She sat down near a small ditch, hugging her knees, whispering her mother's name like a prayer. As darkness crept closer, strange sounds filled the air, rustling leaves, distant animal calls, the soft movement of insects hidden in the grass. Each sound made Meher flinch. She wiped her tears with the sleeve of her dress and tried to be brave, remembering the stories her grandmother used to tell her about courage and patience. "Stay still," she whispered to herself. "Someone will come." Back in Kachi Gaon, lanterns were now everywhere, their golden light moving like fireflies through the lanes and out toward the fields. Baba Rahim, the oldest man in the village, stood near the mosque, shaking his head slowly. He remembered other children who had wandered too far long ago, stories that everyone hoped would never repeat themselves. He urged the men to search the paths near the river and the fields before night fully settled, knowing how quickly danger grew once darkness arrived. The search spread outward in all directions. Groups of villagers walked shoulder to shoulder, calling Meher's name rhythmically, listening for any answer. Some searched the irrigation channels, others the tall wheat fields, careful not to trample potential signs. Syra followed every group, refusing to stay behind, her voice hoarse but unyielding. Each time someone returned empty-handed, her heart sank lower. As the moon rose, pale and watchful, fear turned into quiet determination. This was not just one family's loss anymore, it was the village's. Kachi Gaon had raised Meher together, watched her take her first steps, heard her laughter echo through its lanes. Losing her felt like losing a piece of itself. Out in the fields, Meher finally lay down on the cool ground, exhaustion overtaking fear. She wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the unfamiliar stars above, wondering if her mother could see the same sky. A soft breeze brushed her hair, and for a moment, she imagined it was her mother's hand. Holding on to that thought, she closed her eyes, not knowing that the entire village was still calling her name into the night.